Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled today are author Angella Nazarian and singer-songwriter Randy Coleman. Author Angella Nazarian was born in Iran and raised in Beverly Hills. After earning a graduate degree from UCLA in psychology, she went on to teach at Mount St. Mary's, Cal State Long Beach, and LA Valley College. She continues this work through private workshops and seminars, and also serves on school boards and gives her time to a variety of very worthy charities. With all that work on your plate, Angella, how did you find time to write this beautiful book, Life as a Visitor?
Oh, thank you, first of all, for having me on the show.
Happy to have you.
You know, I think it was around 5 years ago, and I had already been teaching at the university for 11 years. And I felt that my life was becoming more of a routine, and I really wanted to shake things up a little bit. So I decided to take off one semester from school and took on writing classes.
Oh, you did take writing classes, because
Yeah.
everyone in the beginning, when they talk about writing a book, they all go to some kind of workshop or writing class, which is really admirable.
And actually, when I started taking it, I found that I was so looking forward to going back every week. I continued for 2.5 years.
You mean the writing classes you loved?
I did.
That's what I understand. And so many people think, well, I can just write a book, but it doesn't
absolutely.
work, does it?
Oh, no. You can be actually a wonderful writer, or you can be a wonderful short story writer.
Mm-hmm.
But in writing a book, as I realized, is that you need very special skills altogether. And not only that, you have to have a certain kind of stamina to make sure that you go through all those revisions and edits. And it's really nice to have it in a group setting.
You mean these people in your writing class help you go through those revisions?
Yeah.
I mean, they give you support?
Absolutely. You know, you have deadlines in the editing class. There were 10 other people working on books.
Oh,
and so
but books that got published, or books that they just wanted to publish?
They wanted to publish.
They wanted.
So, you know, and for all those people, I'm not sure, I haven't kept track with my class, I'm not sure how many of them got published, but everybody has that, you know, aspiration.
Uh-huh.
And in doing my book signings, I do realize how everybody has a story. And they do want to write it down somehow or publish it.
When they come to you, to your book, when you do a book signing, you do a reading with it, or you do a Q&A, and do they all tell you they have stories?
Most people do. And, you know, my story is about me coming from Iran to the United States, my transition, and how I grow into who I am being here. But it's also a universal story, and I see that a lot of people who are not Iranian, from Trinidad, or people who just say, I moved from New Jersey and I came to LA and I felt like an outsider.
Any kind of displacement.
Yeah. And not only, sometimes it's not even in terms of location. Sometimes we reach that point in our life, as I did 5 years back, that you really feel like you want to do something with your life. You're not sure. You want to change the way you identify yourself as a woman or as a man, as an adult. And that also is a dislocation in some ways, that transition.
So many of the people who came over to this country, like my grandparents say, wanted to assimilate right away.
Right.
They didn't want to keep the traditions, and yet in your book you have that, keeping the traditions. I think there was a trend, a change
That's true.
from the time when my folks came over, my grandparents came over, and you came over as a youngster.
True. I think there's a few things that have happened. One is that our community, the Iranian community, came in mass. So if you look at the Beverly Hills or West Side area, there's a lot of people. I think that assimilation is different when you are there within a community of your own. And then secondly, I do think that there's this trend to really also appreciate your own culture.
Yeah, but to assimilate, and you don't have to assimilate with the American culture because you're all together in one group. And that's how I think the Armenians in Glendale are. They're all together in one group. And a lot of them don't want to assimilate. They hang on to their traditions. So there's these two kind of push and pull.
I think that's the experience of first-generation immigrants.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. I could, you would think even psychologically when you come to a new land, there's a lot of new things that you have to get accustomed to. And there's so much anxiety that I do think that it's in our nature to hold on to what we have because it's secure.
Maybe the security of it, yeah.
But I would think as a second-generation immigrant or as a second-generation American, it's hard not to, and it would be a shame not to, really expand your own repertoire. I really think of myself that I'm Iranian, but by all means, I mean, there's so many things that I've picked up from the American or Western culture that has helped my growth. It would be such a tremendous loss for me to turn my back on that and just only focus on my own community.
Well, aside from your own community, did you express those things in your book that we were just talking about right now?
Yeah.
Did you expand your life and talk about it in Life as a Visitor?
Yes, what's interesting about Life as a Visitor, it's not only about the journey of me coming from the East to the West, but it's about my growth. And I think what I've really understood about myself through writing, and that's the great thing about writing, is that my sense of belonging, my sense of community has changed from when I came. And also, I really do feel that once you feel more comfortable with yourself and who you are, you can naturally connect with other people in a very genuine way. And it doesn't matter if they're Iranian, American, Arab, it's really that genuine connection.
When you started taking your writing classes, had you formulated this book in your mind?
Not at all. I just
see.
really wanted an experience. I think in my life, I always think that what can I do that would provide me an experience to feel alive?
I see.
And I started writing, and I thought this would be great for my kids to really read because they don't know what I had gone through, what their grandparents had gone through in terms of escaping Iran through the borders of Pakistan. And I thought it would be something that would leave a legacy for them.
Well, then how did Assouline come in? Assouline is a fantastic publisher.
Absolutely.
They've done a series of stories that they're all kind of different, and yet they fit together, these stories. Tell us about that.
So it's very interesting because as I call myself nowadays, I'm a hybrid. That means I'm a little bit of everything. And it really reflects on my own taste. I mean, I have a very strong sense of aesthetics. I love art, very much like you. And I also love poetry, writing poetry, and travel.
There's a lot of poetry in here.
And
travel, you love to travel. There's a lot of travel in here too.
Absolutely.
So how did you decide to put all of that together?
Well, once I started writing the stories, I saw that some of my travel stories have the same theme as my memoir. So for example, when I have a chapter that deals with the riots in Iran, there was a trip that we took as a family to Argentina where the police was overthrown. And we had to stay for 2 days in the hotel while people were running wild in the streets. And that was a real flashback to me as a child in Iran, witnessing the revolution. So all the travel themes, all the travel stories have a connect in terms of theme to the memoir.
So that's how the format came about.
Yes.
Then.
So every other chapter, there's a travel piece, and then I have the memoir. And I wanted to very much include art and my photography and art of some well-known Iranian artists.
Which you did, Shireen Nishat.
Yes.
Fantastic.
fantastic. And you know,
she's so great.
She is amazing. I was a fan of hers from way long time ago. And it was amazing because last year when she came to do a debut of her film, that she actually won the silver medal in the Venice
Did you
Film
know
Festival.
her?
I didn't know her personally, but she came to LA and I actually interviewed her for the Huffington Post. I write for the Huffington Post.
Yeah,
right
she's fantastic.
And what I have to say that her art is amazing, but she as a person is really, truly a wonderful being.
So you talked about, so we're talking about the art that's in there, the short stories. One of the things is you said you wanted to be a flamenco dancer. So that's like part of the memoir?
Well, you know, it's
part, or?
that is, you know, if they ask me, I think I'm a closet Latina.
Okay.
So I talk about in my memoir how I really gravitate toward, when I came here, I studied Spanish and I studied it for many years, and I love Latin American authors, and I am presently taking flamenco dance
You are? Oh, okay. All right.
6 months, and I'm having my first recital very soon.
I'll do my ballet recital and you can do your flamenco.
I'm not inviting anyone. I don't know how good I am, but
our
it's fun.
husbands can produce them.
That's
my
right.
husband always used to say, "You've taken so many ballet classes. Can't we have a recital?" Now we're going to have flamenco. But one of the things we're talking about you and your family. Was your family helpful in this, or did you do it in a closed room?
Well, they were very supportive of me,
yeah.
of writing. And actually, the first chapter, the opener, is about my parents' escape. And, you know, it's still very hard for my mom to talk about the circumstances of her escape in Iran. She still gets very teary when she talks about it. And she was really gracious in the way that she usually doesn't talk about it. And she sat down and gave me all the details.
Oh, so that helped you in what you were doing.
Yeah.
And of course, you have your mother and your mother-in-law, so you can keep the Iranian traditions in your household.
Yes. Yeah. Iranian, and you know, it's a really interesting mix because we're Iranian, we're Jewish, and definitely I do think that we have a lot of now traditions that are American as well. So it's like a whole
But I
big
think
thing.
the cultural traditions could still be held by the Muslims or the Christians, right? That from where you came from, the background?
Certainly, I think Nowruz, which is our New Year, first day of spring, is one of those cultural traditions that is
It's cultural,
so,
right? Yes.
And funny enough, you know, in an Islamic, right now, Iran being a fundamentalist Islamic state, they really tried hard not to go with the Nowruz tradition. But you know, the people of Iran,
they do?
They love it. You know, it's part of our culture. It's something.
It's not a Jewish tradition.
Not at all.
Oh, it is a cultural. It is Iranian.
And it's rooted before Islamic rule. So, and it is really celebrating newness and springtime, and you know, a new year really starts at spring for us.
Oh, that's very interesting. So that's one of the ways that you can keep Iranian tradition.
Yes, and culture.
And culture. And then, were they allowed to have Jewish tradition
in Iran?
At that time?
Yes, yes. And I talk about it in a book. You know, I went to a bilingual school, and it was a secular school. And part of any secular school, or public school even, was Islamic studies. But for Jews and Zoroastrians, they would not obligate you to study them. So that was great respect on their behalf, although things have changed now.
Right.
I mean,
before we leave, what do you want your readers to take away?
I really have to say that I think my story is a universal story. I think that at any time in our life, we felt like outsiders. We've always had to go through some sort of transition in our life. And I think this is the story. This is the story that marks our change in our life and what we do with it.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you. And don't go away. We'll be right back with Randy Coleman. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with musician, writer, guitarist, Randy Coleman, who was born and raised in Los Angeles. He graduated from Loyola High School, Loyola Marymount College, and earned an MFA in theater and acting from CalArts. He launched a CD at the Whiskey on Sunset Boulevard in the summer of 2009, which is what we'll talk about. I've heard that you have a rich tenor voice. Did you ever think of opera?
Not so much, but I did study a little bit with a woman named Gloria Bennett, who was an opera singer.
You did?
Back in the day, yeah.
Do you think that helped you with what you're doing now?
Sure. I remember I fainted when I first started work. My first
Why?
lesson with her. Well, she started talking about clashing of vocal cords, and I started getting, so I just fell over.
But do other teachers do that? Vocal cord clashing?
I don't know. I just teach me how to sing. I don't think I need to know about the vocal cords clashing. I just think it was hilarious that I felt, luckily I wasn't hurt or anything. But I didn't study too long with her. I actually, at CalArts, I studied voice. We had to take voice class.
But it wasn't like an opera idea, though.
No. We had to study voice, and it was basically, to describe it, it was kind of like hatha yoga. It was like yoga while singing. Yeah.
Really?
And it was a woman by the name of Fran Bennett, who's very well known and very renowned in the theater community.
Well, that school is so fantastic anyway,
it was
isn't
a great
it?
school, yeah.
It was a wonderful place for you to be. But did you think that you were going to be an actor when you were there?
I was pursuing acting. I mean, both my parents are actors.
Your mother is?
Her name is Jean Hale Coleman.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
And your father?
And my dad is Dabney Coleman.
So it was in your blood.
Yeah.
Was music in their blood?
Well, my mom has a great appreciation for music.
Yeah,
and my
I know.
dad actually can sing. Yeah, he's got a voice.
So, but you can hear this quality in your voice. And when I was listening to the CD that you just launched, I could hear this deepness. And do you think it came from studying the yoga and studying the voice?
Sure, I think it's all inclusive. All of my experiences, tie into what I'm expressing.
So you're a native Angelino.
I am.
We talked about your dad being in show
We're
business.
a dying breed, Joan.
I am too.
Are you?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Definitely.
Let me shake your hand on that.
Definitely. No, it's true. That's true. Did you think that this is a hindrance or a help in your business?
God, that's a good question.
Being from here and having people in the business?
I don't know. I've never really analyzed it much. I would assume maybe that I could probably find some pros and cons to that. But my dad was actually really good at keeping us away from all the stuff, the Hollywood stuff. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because my father was an auto race promoter. And he kept us totally away from it too.
Yeah.
I mean, live a normal life and then decide what you want to do.
Yeah, right.
And it looks like you went through this. You went through good schools and finished your college career.
Right. Yeah. He was very protective. I mean, I remember him being very. He didn't want his kids to be pursuing acting or pursuing the Hollywood, scene as kids. And he was.
Well, you have a sister.
I do have two sisters, yeah.
Well, I know one sister who's a singer.
Yeah, the amazing Quincy Coleman, yes.
And she's very well known, isn't she?
Yeah, she's doing well. She's got a couple of records out, and
Have you worked together?
We have just started in the last year. We've started working on just a very grassroots country album. Very much in the vein of an old school like Patsy Cline, Willie Nelson type of
that sounds
records.
Great.
So we started working on that, and we've just been, we've been collaborating.
That sounds fantastic. Do your parents did they encourage you to work together?
Oh, yeah.
They want that.
Come on, John. Yeah, sure. Finally, it took this long.
My kids are together.
Exactly.
One of the things that is in your past is that you fronted a band. Did it start in high school?
I started playing music. In high school, yeah. I started bands in high school, and it wasn't till later on that I got, a few years later, that I got signed to a major label deal with a band that I was in called Zoo Story.
So Zoo Story
It
was
was about 10, 12 years later, yeah.
Did it come out of high school?
No.
Was it? No, it was a different thing.
No.
When they say you fronted a band, what does that mean?
It means you're the front man. You're like the lead singer.
Do you also play, or you're the lead singer only?
Lead singer. I was lead singer. I played guitar too.
So
Yeah.
you did both.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that launch just a little bit. What happens at a launch?
You mean the CD release?
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
Or I don't know. I'm calling it a launch. Randy
hey,
Coleman.
let's call it a launch. I like that.
Like, what do you do?
I
you,
like
you
that.
were at the Whiskey.
Well, actually, I need to correct you on that. It was at the Roxy.
Oh, at the Roxy.
But,
oh, I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
Are they near each other?
They are actually. They are.
Thank you.
Yeah, just down the street from each other. Yeah, we put together a great show. It was really
So
awesome.
you do a show of everything that's on the CD?
Well, we played a handful of songs from the CD, and I actually played a few new ones too that I've written.
So I wondered.
Yeah,
And so do you write the lyrics?
I do. Yeah, yeah.
And what comes first, the words or the melody?
It's usually, for me, in my case, I usually start playing guitar, and then it just kind of comes.
And then the words come?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll have an experience. Like I'll break up with a girlfriend or something. Like, okay, I need to write about this. And
Do you
I'll
keep
go
a
do it.
notebook?
I usually, yeah, they're kind.
I mean,
I've
do
got
you
a
write
few
phrases?
I got a few notebooks scattered around.
But you don't find them?
They're hard to find. Yeah, I usually just I just work on my computer.
Is that right? And it
Yeah.
all just comes to you? That was one inspiration, your life experiences, I
Yeah.
guess. And can you just be driving down the street and something will come to you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I remember going to Barnes and Noble to find a Christmas present, and I found an old school DVD of Dragnet, and and on the back it said, "Ma'am, just give me the facts." And I went home and I wrote a song called "Ma'am, Just Give Me the Facts."
Did you? Yeah. So something like that.
Yeah.
What music do you listen to?
Oh, well, just to kind of bring in my family a little bit on that question, the one thing we all really have in common is our love for music. And my parents like introduced me to like old school country, like Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and George Jones.
So you listen to those.
Yeah, and also like Ray Charles and Otis Redding. Like I just love like the old
good
school
stuff.
Yeah,
Really?
exactly. But I'm also very into like classic rock, like the Beatles. I John Lennon and Paul McCartney taught me how to play guitar, really.
They really did?
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, by watching them. Do you know them?
Well,
Let's hear it.
I know them here. I know them right here, Joan. No, I got one of those, complete Beatles books that show you the chords to all the songs. So I just kind of
but that's
figured
so
out.
great, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
And did you ever want to, talking about that and all the great musicians that you just mentioned, did you ever want to play with any of them? Which one?
Joan,
Which one?
come on. You're killing me here. Would I like to play with Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Let me think about
What
that.
about Ray
Yes.
Charles? Would that have been a good one?
Yeah, I'd play with him right now. Like, you know what I mean?
If I could, right.
No, Ray Charles doesn't get any better than that.
When you write songs, do you write them for other people, or are they always just for you?
Well, within the last few years, I started collaborating and writing with other people. Yeah, so
Writing with other people.
with other people and for other people. Yeah.
And do they come to you and say, I need a song for a movie, or I need a song for my next album? Or
Well, a few years back, I wrote a few songs with an artist named Ryan Cabrera. I wrote a few songs with him, and and right now, like with my sister, we're writing like country songs to submit to modern country artists.
So, have any of those ever been used in films?
I've had a couple of songs placed. I had a song called "Star" that was placed in a Kevin Costner film called Dragonfly.
Oh, that's good.
And I just recently, this year, I placed a song called "Last Salutation" on the Scrubs TV show.
Oh,
Scrubs.
so that's cool.
The
Do you
grand
like
finale.
that idea?
Yes, I do.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's another avenue for artists to make a living by licensing songs.
So now, back to what we were talking about, do you go on the road? with this? I mean, how do you promote this besides the Roxy, not the
Right.
Whiskey?
Yeah. It's
Sorry.
definitely. I'm in structuring a tour right now.
Is that what happens next?
Yeah. That's what's got to happen. I got to go on the road and tour and hit Europe and hit America. But just in the very near future, I'm scheduling some shows at the Hotel Cafe.
Oh, great.
Doing sort of a residency in November and December. So if people want to come to my website, randycoleman.net or MySpace.
So that tells everywhere where you'll be?
Exactly.
Play us something before we leave.
You want me to play a song,
I
Joan?
love that one. I loved all of those songs.
You want a little Love and War?
You
want the war one?
The war one.
Okay, Joan, I'll do this for you.
It was so great.
I remember holding you, naked as a stone. We tried so hard to follow through, yeah, to bring our love back home. I can't figure anymore just what we both were fighting for. I sometimes love is war. I made you cry. There ain't no secret that you hurt me too. There is no use asking why. We just cut right to the core. I guess it's all part of what we bargained for. Honey, sometimes love is war. Suddenly, like no other, there's no in between. Oh, no
I picked a good one, didn't I? It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you,
thanks
Joan.
for watching Randy Coleman. Keep writing, and we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.